everybody, welcome back to our channel. I am working on starting seeds today. In this video, I am starting onion and rhubarb seeds. Now, as far as onions, we are doing we're doing white onion, green onion, and red onions. Here at the beginning of this clip, I went ahead and poured water into our seed starting mix. I purchased the Jiffy seed starting mix from Walmart. It was about $5 a bag. I poured it into this large bowl and then poured water over top of it, mixed it together with my hands to make sure it was thoroughly dampened. You'll see me squeeze it here in a little bit. You want it to be definitely thoroughly wet, but you don't want it dripping. So more like a wet sponge, more like a damp sponge rather than a sponge that you would squeeze and water would come out. In the next clip, you'll notice that I have press and seal on the bowl. We actually had some errands to run and limbs to pick up after a storm that we had, so I put this project on hold. Since the soil or the seed starting mix was already wet, I didn't want it drying out, so I just put press and seal on the top of it so that when I was ready to come back, it was still damp and ready to use. I'm starting with the rhubarb 4-cell containers. These are just containers that I have reused. They had either seedlings, vegetable seedlings, or what have you from the nursery that I purchased last year. I used a spray bottle with vinegar back during December, I believe, or January. And on a warm day, I believe it was right after New Year's, it may have been New Year's Day, I took the spray bottle of vinegar and cleaned all of my containers that I'm going to reuse, or my seedling pots. I'm also using some berry containers. As you can see here, we had either blueberries or blackberries in those from the grocery store. They have great drainage holes in them. If they don't, you can easily put some in the bottom. I also cleaned those with vinegar to make sure those were fully clean. And I just filled up each container, or each cell container, whichever one I was using, filled it up almost to the top, and did not press down on the dirt. I wanted to keep it loose, light, and airy so that the seedlings have room to push through, and that they're not struggling to come through the top layer of soil. So with that being said, everything in here at this point is loose and airy. Here I'm getting my seed container out in which I store my seed packets. If you watch my seed haul video, I go over that a little bit. It is a container that a lot of people have recommended. It is for 4x6 photos, and it comes with 16 individual compartments for photos. However, I categorize those for each type of vegetable, flower, or herb, and that's what holds my seed packets. It keeps them dry and safe from the elements that they may be in. The first seed that I'm getting started with is our rhubarb seed. These are from Indiana. They're from Dan's grandfather. Again, I went over that in our seed haul video if you want to know a little bit more about it. And from what I've read, again, this is our first year doing all of this, so learning a lot still, and as we go. Actually, on this morning, I Googled how to start a rhubarb seed because it seemed as if it needed to be soaked. It has a papery layer on it, or sheathing around it, and it seemed like in my head, I just figured that it should be either soaked or that wrappers should come off of the outside of the seed. But in nature, no one would take the time to take off the wrapper of the seed, so I assumed it would need to be soaked. So with that being said, I did discover that you need to soak these for approximately 1 or 2 hours, and so I did. And so I filled up this little bowl of water, and while I worked on the other seeds, planting those, and a few errands around the house, few activities, few chores around the house, these seeds soaked for about, I'll say 2 to 3 hours rather than 1 to 2. The first seed that I planted or started are the green onions. These are Parade organic green onions from Park Seco. I sprinkled most of the packet into my hand. A few, due to static, stayed in the packet. As you can see here, it's a good little handful of seeds. So I took a note from the Humble Servant Homestead YouTube channel, and they recommended taking a container that is wide, like this one, wide and square. I believe they divided a long flat into different bigger sections, and multi-sowed the seeds rather than planting them individually in small, say 4 to 6 cell containers. This way, if you're unsure of germination or you don't want to risk not having proper germination, you can have this whole container sowed. You can divide them once they get up to, I think it's like 2 to 4 weeks. It might be like 4 weeks. Once they get to be about 4 weeks, then you would take them and divide them by hand and individually place them. You would up-pot them, individually place them either into the ground or into a larger container to start growing on their own individually. They also stated that once you sow the seeds, you lightly cover them with additional seed starting mix, and then you just gently tap down that seed starting mix so that the seeds can make contact with the soil or the mix. Of course, after you press this down gently, you would want to spray it lightly with water or bottom water it by pouring water in the tray. That way that the soil or the seed starting mix can stay moist. The next seed that I started was the red Geneva Cibellini onion. This is a red onion that we chose to grow this year. And I just took a small handful of these seeds, and they kind of look like little chocolate chips, don't you think? I thought they were kind of cute. Anywho, we just sowed them just like we did the green onion. These are a little harder to see, so I took a little bit more time to try to get them evenly dispersed through the container. We're just covering these seeds up again with a thin layer of the seed starting mix. Spreading it out, making sure that all the seeds have something on top of them. And again, just making light pressure on top of that seed starting mix to make sure the seeds have contact with the soil or with the seed starting mix. Of course, after that, you would lightly spray with water to ensure the seed starting mix is damp for germination. The next seed that we're starting is our white onion. This is the Texas grano onion. It is a short day onion. And they also look like little chocolate chips. I just think that's fascinating. I'm excited to have these grow or start germinating and sprouting. From what I've learned, that's my catchphrase. From what I've learned, you will, once they get to be about 4 to 6 inches high, maybe 3 to 4 inches high, you're gonna wanna cut those back so that the energy starts going into the bulbing of the onion rather than the green. Now, I'm not so sure about the green onion. I will have to look into that and how that's handled, because I know these are for bulb onions specifically. You'll want to trim those back. So we'll do a little research and I will share the knowledge that I learned with you guys when I learn it and when that time comes. Again, just making contact with the soil, spritz lightly with water. Alright, so we're finally to the time where I'm able to start the rhubarb seeds. You'll see me hesitate there for a minute with the, actually picked up a toothpick to make the holes in the seed starting mix. Decided that wasn't very efficient. So after that I put the toothpick aside and just got in there with my finger. My finger made the perfect size hole for 2 rhubarb seeds each. Since I soaked 16 and I have 8 cells here, I'm putting 2 in each cell. I don't know how these are going to germinate. Again, these were seeds that were given to me by Dan's grandfather in Indiana, so there's no guesstimation or anything regarding germination rate. So just starting 2 in each cell. As stated, you need to plant them 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch deep. So that's what I've done here, approximately, not exactly. And you'll see me kind of put 2 seeds in each hole, and then I'm just covering it back up with the soil that's already in the cell. I did not add any extra. The markers that I'm using for each cell or each container are just leftover markers that I utilized in that I used in our raised bed last year. They faded really bad, so I just cleaned them up with some rubbing alcohol, let them dry, and took some masking tape and just put the name of each plant that I was planting, or each seed that I was starting this year. Alright, so we've got everything started. I spritzed everything with water and bottom watered them just to get them a good start with moisture, along with already pre-soaking the seed starting mix. This is a view from the inside of our seed starting shelving unit, our little system that we have, grow lights, a wire metal shelf, and we created our own grow light reflector curtain around it. I do have a video on that if you want to check it out. It was super easy, super cheap, and super simple to make. So if you guys are looking to have a weekend project, or you really need something to help deflect that light back onto your plants without purchasing something massively expensive, go check that out. Alright guys, well that is it for onion and rhubarb. We've got those seeds started. They're doing happy, healthy, staying warm, and we will keep up with the progress. Thanks for watching and have a great day.